The year is 2019. The pandemic hasn't happened, and we are out licking doorknobs and touching faces like there's no tomorrow. During this time, arguably a better, easier time, AuthorTube was a glorious place filled with dozens, if not more channels, and more popping up every single day. This made writing friendships easier than it has been, or has been since, in my estimation. If you found a channel that didn't work for you, that you didn't like, you just moved on to the next channel, as there was always a new one popping up around the corner. While AuthorTube was full of various kinds of channels talking about various kinds of writing, there were clear forerunners in this space. Many of those people are still the same people that you see today: Jenna Moresi, Alexa Dunn, Sarah Cannon, others who I can't confirm without doing a whole bunch of research that is unnecessary for just a couple lines of a video. But there is another big AuthorTuber during this time. This AuthorTuber was bubbly, methodical, she was a planner, she had a full-time job and still managed to sell books and have a huge following. No matter what your opinion of those books was or is, Kristen Martin was doing really well.
It's ARC reviews being used as a gimmick.
A very popular AuthorTuber.
An AuthorTuber.
Kristen Martin.
Kristen Martin.
Very simply, an ARC is an advanced reader copy that is just an electronic and or print copy of a book that is made available before the official publication of the book. Advanced reader copies, or ARCs for short, are copies of unpublished books offered free of charge in exchange for honest reviews. Advanced reader copies can't be sold and are given to bloggers, reviewers, and booksellers for review to help generate a buzz for a book before it comes out. This is all part of the cost of doing business as an author, but these costs can be mitigated by offering ebook versions of the ARC, and also in many places you can write off your ARCs that are not free for you to send on your taxes. That would be something you'd need to talk to a tax person about, obviously. So that brings us back to May of 2019 and the ARCs are free scandal, incident, whatever you want to call it. The timeline here is kind of hard to find and follow because a lot of the players in this situation have either taken the content down or have since taken all of their content down. In or about May of 2019, the mother of a teenage girl reached out to the community because her daughter was telling her that she had to subscribe to a Patreon for $50 per month for 3 consecutive months in order to get an advanced reader copy of this author's book. The mother thought that $150 seemed like a lot of money for one book, and she reached out to the community to find out if this was normal or if her daughter was being taken for a ride. Let me start this entire story with a hearty get your bag. If you have a way to get money on the internet, do it. Go for it. Get your bag. That does not include taking advantage of other people or doing things that would be considered unethical. But if there's a way that you can get money on the internet, I am all for it. Go sell your things. However, this does not apply to things that are free for a reason. And ARCs are free for a number of reasons, including that it keeps the reviewer honest about their review. They are not required to make a review. They don't owe you anything. You don't owe them anything. Since nothing changes hands other than the actual book, the review is a lot more likely to be unbiased. Upon hearing this mother's story, the community became reasonably concerned about selling of ARCs, as this was established that this is not something that was done. Many members of the community got angry, and some could even say went rabid immediately. They started reaching out to other authors to ask if they had any idea of why somebody would sell an ARC, or if they thought that there was an understanding somewhere that that was an acceptable behavior. Other authors started reaching out to Kristen Martin directly. Most of these people who reached out to Kristen Martin directly were trying to explain to her how and why this situation was a problem. Kristen did have a few supporters who thought that she was doing no wrong and supported that she should be able to sell her ARCs via her Patreon. Kristen defended this behavior, stating that this was due to a Patreon and that the people who were complaining about it just didn't understand how Patreon worked. Separate parties within the community started speaking out. Many of them started directly trying to engage Kristen Martin on their grievances, explaining why this was a problem, and again asking her to consider stopping this particular perk on her Patreon. I did not personally see any aggressive posts, and I do not see any now. However, since Kristen Martin has removed her Twitter account, it is hard to say whether or not they were there. This is the internet though, so it is likely that there were people who were not nice about the situation. I'm not going to pretend that that is impossible, even though I personally don't have any evidence of that. This is when the blocking started. Kristen didn't just start by blocking off people that she thought were being mean to her. She started by blocking anyone who told her that this behavior was unacceptable. Some of the people she blocked were huge fans who were trying to reach out to her and explain to her that she was hurting the community by selling ARCs in this way. She began labeling anyone who dared say that she shouldn't be doing this as a hater or a bully or a troll. And she refused to engage anyone directly on the topic, only making snide, sideways remarks in various posts and videos, and I believe on her podcast as well. The community was fuming. People who were previously her supporters, even those who supported her saying that she should be allowed to do this, started to wonder why she was blocking people who were engaging her in a civil manner. The fact that she refused to even engage anyone on the topic made people wonder if it was possible that she was aware from day one that this was an issue, and she just chose to pretend that she didn't know any better. Then people started making videos about the situation, talking about why this was a problem and how we needed to address it as a community. Then she started asking her followers, who continued to support her, to report videos about the situation for bullying, despite the fact that I saw none of these that attacked her either. As many of you know, reporting a channel for bullying can result in the channel being removed entirely. Deplatforming removes these people's voices. Removing voices of someone who is in fact harming other people is a thing we could discuss in a different video. However, in this situation, the voices being silenced were valid critics. They were not harming others other than maybe Kristen Martin's feelings. That makes this aim to deplatform a dirty tactic, only used to silence detractors and not used for its intended purposes to keep the community safe from bullying and actual abuse. As far as I know, there were no videos removed for bullying, nor did I hear of anyone losing a Twitter or other social media account for that. The assumption I make from there is that none of her followers took to heart what she had said about reporting. The arcsarefree debate, now more of a shouting into the void kind of situation rather than actually engaging the person it was about, continued in the background, while the forbidden community of guru gossiper discussed other things that they saw about Kristen Martin that they found unsettling. They examined that she had courses which they thought were overly expensive. As I mentioned earlier, get your bag. However, if your courses are very expensive, also be aware that people are probably going to criticize that. If someone's willing to pay for an overpriced course, that's on them, and no one can control what someone does or doesn't buy into. You might think that all of those courses are scams, and quite frankly, I do. However, I don't believe that we can hold someone accountable for selling a product that clearly people are interested in purchasing. After a short time of discussing the value of those courses, it became clear that she was also offering a course that used the NaNoWriMo name. NaNoWriMo is a non-for-profit organization that many people in the AuthorTube community hold very deeply in their heart, as that is part of the reason that many of us participate in NaNoWriMo in the first place, is the non-for-profit portion of the organization. After a short period of time of people speaking out and stating that it was very odd for her to be making money off of the name of a non-for-profit, the course changed names and the non-for-profit was no longer listed. In fact, a notice was posted stating that it was not affiliated or associated with NaNoWriMo directly. Once the NaNoWriMo course was rectified, the situation kind of went cold. I believe Kristen Martin took a hiatus shortly after all of this went down. As far as I can tell at this time, she no longer uses the AuthorTube tag in her videos. She's leaned into a more spiritual type of content, and though she's still writing books and still selling those books via her YouTube channel, the books she's been releasing now have been largely spiritual in nature. Since this issue, I don't know of another issue in AuthorTube that has been so all-encompassing of the entire community. Sure, there's always going to be interpersonal issues, and people are going to get into fights within their friend groups and disagree about things on AuthorTube. But this is the only incident I know of where AuthorTube stood up together and indicated that something was not right and unacceptable. I think this was important because it showed us that even though we might disagree on almost everything, we are not willing to allow someone to behave unethically in our community, and if they do, we will all stand up together and indicate that it is unacceptable. AuthorTube has had its ups and downs, and while I know many of us consider this to have been one of the down situations, I think that it's important to keep this on a positive note, because it was a time when we were all together, we all agreed that this thing was unacceptable and we were not going to let it be that way. We all agreed together that it is not right to charge for ARCs, as they are by definition free. And I think this situation helped us to keep from falling into another situation similar to this one, as it was clear to anyone looking in that we were not going to accept this behavior. So let me know down below what you think of the situation. Were you here when all of this went down? Were you one of the lucky few who did not get blocked by Kristen Martin before she removed her Twitter? Did you have an opinion on the arcsarefree situation? Please do let me know down below. Keep all discussion civil. The only reason I'm using Kristen Martin's name is because she was specifically the only person who was called out for this thing, and I felt like it was disingenuous to not directly say that. And thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys being here more than I can explain. Don't forget that down below there's a like and a subscribe button. I would love it if you would hit them both, unless you're already subscribed, in which case don't hit it because then you'll unsubscribe and that would be terrible. There should also be a recommended video on screen shortly if you want to stay and hang out with me a little longer. If not, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.
Our copies are free. Thank you.